Hello and welcome to Friday Lines. I'm your host, Luke O'Brien, aka OB. Friday Lines is brought to you by Little Birdie TV and topsport.com.au, punting form and Manscaped, all your essential items for life. Joining me today, as always, to speak all things AFL is MG. Welcome, MG.
Thanks, OB. Good morning. How are you?
Going well, thank you. And the doyen of rugby league betting and tipping is a Toprope. Hello to you, Toprope.
Oh, lovely to see you again, Luke. Lovely to see you again, Mark. Good to be here.
Oh, very formal. Thank you, Nick.
Very professional.
Appreciate it. MG, pretty quiet week in the AFL. We'll get to the NRL very shortly. There's a few issues up there, but 3 weeks to finals. All the news is pretty much on field. Brisbane, Richmond, Melbourne, Collingwood tonight. Big game. A bit of false news out of Brisbane with Buddy wanting to go up there. Not sure he sort of fits their demographic, and probably just a way to sort of boost his next contract. A bit of Eddie Betts news as well, which is always unfortunate. That camp in the pre-season of 2018 just won't go away. But apart from that, all pretty quiet and smooth sailing for the AFL.
Yes, OB can't compete with the NRL at the moment. I think about 4 or 5 weeks ago, the AFL were really battling on several fronts, and the NRL had the spinnaker up, and now it's flipped on its head. Poor Toprope needs a bigger shovel up there to move around the S that's going on up there. But yeah, AFL, a bit of false news, I think, coming out of the AFL just to try and match the NRL on the back page of the papers, trying to say the big bud's moving from Sydney to Brisbane. He won't be going anywhere. It's manager's move, do you think, OB? Just putting the feelers out to make sure he gets his proper dollars in his contract, I think.
I think so. I don't think Brisbane suits Big Budwar. I just don't think it suits his demographic for him and Jacinta. But anyway, time will tell. The Commonwealth Games, Australians are going beautifully, especially in the pool. 2-horse race in the middle count with England. I think we've got 130 medals, so about 115, a few overnight. Reminder that the Commonwealth Games package, $22 in the shop at the moment. Toprope Birmingham blinders. They're plus 44 units at 32% POT. So going beautifully. Toprope, you got a little special for the listeners going into the last few days at the Com Games over in Birmingham.
Yeah, we can find something. Sadly for me, the weightlifting's come to a close. Always one of the great fill-ups. I thought it was absolutely delightful. They put it on prime time, Sunday through Wednesday, so we could just have a little something to wager on an evening. So well done to the providers there. We don't have a lot left coming in the last few days. We've got a bit of the track and field left. We've got some diving. We're going to see the conclusion of some of our futures around the beach volleyball and the badminton and the lawn bowls and whatnot. But we're going to look. I'll give this one. And the men's shot put. Well, Tom Walsh, the New Zealander, probably a moral in it, to be honest. He's going to be very, very hard to beat. He's thrown kind of over 22 plenty of times this year, which has this field covered by miles. But fellow New Zealander is second favourite. I reckon he can get popped here, Jocko. I'm going to go with the Nigerian, Chukwuebuka Nkaweki. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Apologies to the Nkweki family if that is incorrect. But I want him to win gold or silver at $2.80 to medal at Ladbrokes, $2.80. You get $3.40 to gold or silver. But I think he's a red hot go in there to feature. So he's got a personal best of 21.8. That was a couple of years back, but if he kind of can find his best, he's got second in the bag, I reckon. So to gold or silver or to medal.
And thank you very much to Nick McAvaney joining us today as well. It's all the facts and figures going beautifully. And golf, British ladies British Open. Anything you've got there out wide?
I've got. Is it out wide? Is it out wide if you're just doing it every week? I'm not sure. I'm on a few here. I was trying to avoid the Americans. That's you're playing the Women's Open Championship. Certainly not on Shibuno, who led -6, or Jess Corder, who played in borrowed clothes to finish 5 under, but got Celine Boutier T5 at -3, Hee-Jin Choi T10 -2. So among others, like Brooke Henderson, Atiaya Thitigal could feature there as well. So look, it's great to be back at Muirfield. A bit of a shall we say, challenging history with females. They didn't. I remember this about 5 years ago. So, but now they're hosting a ladies' open championship, so should be
all is forgiven.
I'm not entirely sure all's forgiven, but it's a partially on the way to redemption. And it's great to see Muirfield back in action, which has been not taken off the open rotor, but has certainly been blackballed for quite a while. So good to see Muirfield back in action.
As we look to NRL action and a little bit of chaos in the NRL, the grand final is currently homeless. I know the MCG has put their hand up, which PVL will be rapt about. What's going on up there? Is it just a bit of moving and shaking between the state governments for a bit of extra funding for some of their stadiums up there, or is PVL sort of bringing Australia's second best sport to Australia's home of sport, the MCG?
I don't know that he's bringing the AFL. I apologise. How insulting to the NBL. I don't think he's bringing the NBL to Sydney, but no, he's got the aptly named, correctly named greatest game of all. He has been shafted by the New South Wales State Government, Dominic Perrottet, and Dominic Perrottet must have a bit of a death wish to be going after PVL, because I'm not entirely sure he's the man you want to pick a fight with. And in particular, in a state where rugby league is, despite the AFL's attempted insurgence, is the only sport that matters in New South Wales. So pissing off a lot of rugby league fans, probably not the way to go. I won't bore with the long history of this, but you're on the right side of things when Peter Fitzsimon's against you. So PVL well and truly on the mark here. There was going to be a massive $1.6 billion refurbishment of the ANZ Stadium, Homebush, and a rebuild of the Sydney Football Stadium. The Sydney Football Stadium is rebuilt, will be opening in the final round, Roosters v South. It was put to one side that when PVL took the reins, that ANZ would not be refurbished, would not be turned into a completely rectangular field. But in lieu of that, the Force of Birmingham grounds will be upgraded and given the kind of facelift that they need to kind of bring them into the modern era. If you've ever been to Leichhardt, it's charming until you need to take a leak or buy a beer. Then it's just annoying. So I think there's a bit going on there. Anyway, that was the promise. Agreed that the grand final was staying in Sydney till 2042, despite the home of rugby league in Australia, unquestionably in Brisbane. And now Perrottet's backed away from that, suggesting flood victims are the reason why. So PVL's launched an all-out offensive, and if anyone knows PVL, when he launched an all-out offensive, is very, very humorous. So plenty going on, but the grand final will not be leaving Sydney. Will not be leaving Sydney. And it will never be in Melbourne. I can just assure you this: it will never be in. PVL would rather blow rugby league up than send the grand final to Melbourne.
Well, I think that rugby league grand final at the MCG and the Sydney Cup at Sandown's got a nice ring to it. So anyway, we'll watch this space. But back to on-field action.
Have they moved the Melbourne Cup yet? Have they moved the Melbourne Cup yet? Per PVL's suggestion a few years ago.
Oh, we'll bring the Everest to Melbourne as well. We'll just do it all. But back to on-field action last night, the Roosters, very impressive 34-16 win over the Broncos. They led early, never in doubt. A little bit of blood there on Victor Radley, his left eyebrow, but and a good start for you and Toprope's punting and the tipsters. For the overs, 41.5 closed at 44.5. So a good easy watch for you there, Toprope.
Good easy watch for me. Not such an easy watch for Victor Radley or Joseph Sawali. It was first blood match, Ric Flair in his heyday. Blood everywhere. It was a real gusher from Victor as well. Good to see. Good to see a bit of old school warrior. Roosters started hot. They've been very, very patchy. They kind of went quiet for probably 40 minutes there. Let Brisbane back in the game. Brisbane, few question marks. Brisbane were pushing for top 4 spot a couple of weeks ago. Lost to the Tigers, bad loss to the Roosters. No Patrick Carrigan for the rest of the season. They're kind of at a bit of a crossroads of their season now. So, last night, Roosters got the job done. A vastly improved performance on that debacle they put up against Manly last Thursday week. But they've got to keep winning. The Roosters to get into the 8, and the Broncos probably need to win 1 or 2 more to lock in their spot as well. So, it was not a bad start to the weekend for those subscribers. We got a nice one with the over, which looked home and hosed after about 20 minutes. Got a bit of a sweat on, and then cruised to the long.
Beautiful. Good start for all punters. And right now it's time for Friday Lines, brought to you by topsport.com.au. Family owned and operated for 35 years. Bet with a bookie you can trust. Bet with topsport.com.au. The first game of AFL action tonight is an absolute beauty. Melbourne versus Collingwood at the MCG. Melbourne $1.35. Collingwood $3.25. The line minus 17.5. Over under 154.5. Ed Langdon's come out and said Collingwood a little bit all duck and no dinner, which adds to the spice. Ben Brown back. Brody Myercheck back. I think Taylor Adams is a big out for the Pies. They haven't played Friday night football for 15 years, these two sides. So this looks an absolute beauty. And what have you got for us, MG?
SOB, looking forward to this one. Second v third on the ladder, both on 14 wins. They're expecting a big crowd here. Unfortunately, there is a bit of weather around, which might temper the crowd a little from maybe the 80, 85 that they were expecting. I heard the AFL were forecasting about 70,000 tonight. But if you're in Melbourne, get along to it if the weather doesn't come in, because this game should be as good as it gets, I think. You don't often see the amount of, the money for Melbourne, OB. Collingwood are on a 10-game winning streak, and all the money's been for Melbourne. They opened 13 in this game, and now it's currently sitting at 17. It's all one-way traffic for Melbourne. Personally, I think the value for me is Collingwood. Plus 17.5 seems a big price for a team who keeps in the game, and with the total only around the mid-150s, I don't think the scoring will be great, and especially if the weather comes in. Collingwood are a good wet weather team. Not convinced on Melbourne's forward line either. I know it's going to be a hard battle in the midfield. Adams is a huge loss for Collingwood, and I think against Melbourne it's even bigger understatement for that. So if they can overcome that, I think Collingwood's defence will hold up very well against Melbourne's forwards, and I think a 3-goal start against Melbourne if the weather rolls in at the MCG. I don't mind that price.
And Collingwood have won 6 out of the last 7 against the Ds. I think the Ds will be too strong. I think they're just a class above. I think there's a bit of a form or a class gap between these two sides. But, hopefully Collingwood come to play and looks a beauty for Friday night footy. Yeah,
looking forward to it.
As we look to the first game of NRL analysis is Manly versus Parramatta. Manly $1.77. Parramatta 2.08, the line minus 1.5, over under 44.5. That's the 7.55 game at Four Pines Homophobic Park. Manly have got a few in again this week. Toprope, which way are you leaning?
Yeah, Manly and Parra, here we go again. Real hard game to assess here. There's a little whisper that Tommy Turbo was going to play this week. He wasn't named, so he won't play. It's they've named 5 of the 7 homophobes. They're back on the side. 1 dropped and 1 injured. So that's plenty of whispers that they're a club divided at the moment. Des is probably the right guy to kind of help bridge a bit of that gap, but I don't know. Manly put in a hell of a gutsy effort last week. Those who showed up, and the players who turned up were pretty disappointed with those who didn't. So we'll see how that manifests itself. With the Eels, so Mitchell Moses, their star halfback, is out. I'll lean towards the Eels here. They've won 10 of 15. I'm not convinced that Manly are all right. So small bet power, but the big play in this game is the over. Over angles everywhere. 8 of the last 10 between these two have gone over the total. Manly, huge overspot. 30-13 when they're off a loss. 67% when they play at night. 10-3 when they're rookie off a double-digit loss. Parra, big overside away from Combank and off conceding 10 or fewer. So loading up on the over here, I think you get 43.5 still. Weather is not as bad as yesterday in Sydney, so I expect this total will head north of 44 pretty soon.
Beautiful. As we look at the Western Bulldogs versus Fremantle Saturday afternoon at Marvel. The Bulldogs $1.43, Fremantle $2.85, the line minus 12.5, over under 163.5. The Dockers on a little bit of a form slump. The Bulldogs, got touched up last week, but they sort of need to keep winning 10th versus 6th. Yeah, this looks another beauty on paper, MG.
Yeah, it should be a good contest, this OB. Looking forward to it. As you said, it's 10th v6 on the ladder, so it's all or nothing for the Bulldogs in the run home here for them to make the finals. They have to win out here. So at home, the early money suggests this is a team to be on. The open 10, lines tracking in the Bulldogs' direction. They got some good ins. Keith, Treloar, and Darcy gets his first game, son of Luke. So congratulations to him. It'll be a big game for the family. So they're going in with a bit of height. No major changes for Freo. I just think that the Freo, as you said, the form's really dropped out. Their last 3 weeks have been pretty ordinary. This game shapes up. It'll be offense v defense. Bulldogs like it fast and open and high scoring, free flowing. Whereas Fremantle need to keep the game contained. They don't have the offense to go with the Bulldogs if it turns into a track meet. So you'll know early if Fremantle can contain the Bulldogs and turn it into a scrap, they'll be in the game. But yeah, if the Bulldogs get it on their own terms, open and free, they'll have the forwards to simply outscore Freo. So at home at the Dome, I think I'd just be shading the Bulldogs here. And again, which way the pattern goes will determine the total. So no bet on the total, but I just think the market's right here with the trend towards the Bulldogs.
As we move to Canberra on Saturday, the early evening game, the Raiders 2.38, the Penrith Panthers $1.60, the line 3.5, over under 40.5. Penrith without Luai and Nathan Cleary. Canberra, any chance here, Toprope?
Yeah, you'd have to think so. Penrith got the negative with no Cleary, probably a positive with no Luai. So they are playing Jamin Salmon in the halves, a kind of reconstituted back rower. So hard game to assess. Penrith look like they're there for the taking, but one of the things you can say about Penrith is they've got a fair bit of continuity across the rest of the park, and they're a team that can rely on defence to win games, and they will have to this week. Canberra, look, they've been in good form. They've won 8 of 11. They're probably over the odds at the moment. I kind of have this game close to pick them. But they've got such a dreadful record home as a home underdog. I'll be tempering enthusiasm around the Raiders, but where I won't be tempering enthusiasm is on the under in this game. Only way Penrith can win this game is to really shut it down. And they are favourites, so you've got to think that's where it's going to go. They have not got many points in with Salmon and O'Sullivan as the halves. The Raiders are a fair scoring team. Bigger under spots both ways too. 24 and 11 the under when the Raiders are at home. The under hits at 68% when the Panthers are away from Penrith Stadium, and is 11 and 2 when they're off a loss. So with new halves pairing, I'll be all over the under this one.
And a big game in the AFL on Sunday sees Brisbane taking on Carlton up at the Gabba. Brisbane $1.37, Carlton $3.15. The line -7.5, over under 179.5. Brisbane coming off a bit of a self-implosion against Richmond, and Carlton the upset loss against the Crows over in Adelaide. You'd hate to be the loser of this game, MG. Which way are you leaning?
Yes, they were both probably chokes last week, to be fair, OB, especially Brisbane leading by 7 goals, and Carlton going over to, I think Adelaide were 15th at the time on the ladder. So yeah, disgraceful from both last week to let the W's slip away there. But Brisbane at home here, I think they'll be too strong. They defend the ground unbelievably. It's too big an advantage for them against Carlton. The early money's going that way. They opened 13.5 on the line, out to 17.5 now. I think it'll continue to go a little bit more to Brisbane's way. They've got some good ends. Rich and Starcevich back in their defensive end will help them no end, whereas Carlton lose Kennedy, which I think is a big loss for Carlton in the mids, and that's where they're going to have to win the game. If they lose the midfield battle, if Carlton lose the midfield battle, Brisbane's forward line will just have too much gas to put up too big a score. So yeah, I think Carlton are in a treacherous position now. They've got 3 games left and really against hard sides, and they need to find one W to make finals. So the pressure will build for them, and I just don't think they'll get it this week against the Lions.
I think Carlton will fall into the 8. I think I can see them maybe beating Collingwood in the last game of the year to sort of get that 13th win, but I think they still make it with 12 wins. I just think the chasing pack's probably a little bit too far away with the run home, but should be a beauty at the Gabba on Sunday. And good to see Caleb Marchbank back. I think people forget how good he is in the back half for the Blues. As we look to the Sunday 2:00 game up there in Bundaberg is Canterbury versus the North Queensland Cowboys. The Bulldogs $3.80, North Queensland Cowboys $1.27. The line 11.5, over under 44.5. And before we get to the on-field action, please Toprope tell me that Josh Reynolds is not coming back to Belmore.
Heaven help us if that's the case. Surely not. He was done 7 years ago, so I've got no idea what they'd be thinking there. Obviously on the cheap, but zero need for him. It's like the West Tigers marketing department has somehow infiltrated Canterbury with a decision like that. It's absolute madness. So you would hope that Reynolds is nowhere near the Bulldogs other than the fans cheering. Those followers on Instagram will know he's doing pretty well for himself on the romance front and has been enjoying himself travelling around Europe. Just keep up the travels, Josh. Keep up the travels.
Absolutely. So on-field action, any chance for your Bulldogs, mate?
Yeah, look, I just want to lay my weekly shot to Trent Barrett. Notable that in the 9 games under Mick Potter, they've scored 18 plus in 8 of them. They've covered 5 of their last 6 and have moved from 16th to 12th on the ladder. So tremendous work by Potter, but also probably more of an indictment on the previous coach. Line has moved from 6.5 to 11.5. That's only because bookies all follow the sports bet guys who thought that the game was being played at ANZ. So if you're quick enough to get on the minus 6.5, good luck to you. But the game is actually in Bundaberg, as OB rightly noted. 11.5. I reckon the line's kind of getting maybe a little bit big there. Dogs been playing very, very well late. They've won 6-4 under Barrett in round 1, a rare win under the former coach. Beat them in torrential conditions. North Queensland obviously kicked plenty of goals since then, but lean towards the Dogs at the big start. They're just playing a different brand of footy with Burton and O'Carr and Averell at fullback. So I think I'll take the plus 11.5 and a small speck at the head-to-head, but not a lot of confidence.
As we whip through the remaining AFL games for the round, Hawthorn $1.92 against Gold Coast $1.88. The line is even, over under 167.5 down there in Tassie on Saturday afternoon. MG.
Yeah, good money for Gold Coast. So Hawthorn started slight favourites in this game, and it's just flipped over to Gold Coast as favourite. I disagree with the market move here. I had Hawthorn a couple of points favourite in this. Big home ground advantage down in Tassie. And I always think it's a tough road trip for a Queensland team to go from nice warm temperatures, shorts weather, down to a chilly Tasmania. The weather's going to be okay down there, but just the temperature. I think Hawthorn is the pick here against the market. Really keen on the over here. 163 was too low. Backed it twice, sent it out at 63 and again at 65. I think this has to start north of 170. I think it'll be an open game as long as they kick straight. I think there'll be plenty of points in this game and shade Hawthorn.
And Ben McAvoy's 250th game, so congratulations to him. GWS $2.10 against the Essendon Bombers, $1.74. The line 3.5, over under 169.5. The Bombers back into some reasonable form, and GWS copped a whack from their coach during the week, so hopefully they respond.
Yeah, well, the market's going with your response angle there with the Giants. Opens 6 Essendon, and it's down to 3, so it's cut in half. I'm all Essendon here. I think on current form, it's always going. I think we've said it for a few weeks in a row now that the Giants are shot. I think their year's over. They get nothing out of McVeigh as coach, and I think a lot of players have already planned for their holidays. Essendon won 5 of their last 7, and Giants have lost 6 of their last 7. So even though there's strong support for the Giants, I'm on Essendon here. I think -3 is a good bet. I agree with the total around the 170. I think there'll be a good standard game in good weather.
Geelong take on St Kilda on Saturday night. The Cats $1.13, the Saints $6. The line -34.5, over under 152.5. This market I'd say the Cats are favourite. They're very hard to beat down there, but $1.13, very short against the Saints, who beat them early in the year at Marvel.
Yeah, good point, OB. Round 9, it was actually Geelong's last loss because they have won 10 in a row, was St Kilda. They've beaten by 10 points. So St Kilda have that level of confidence that they can match it with Geelong. Unfortunately, they've got to go down to Geelong to try and get that win. And we know Geelong at Geelong's better than bank interest in most cases. The market's pretty solid. The total's starting to come down. There is a chance of weather, which also helps your St Kilda at the plus as well. So, yeah, I'm not convinced I'd be taking Geelong at the line, but I think St Kilda can make this a messy game. And Geelong are quite happy to play a defensive game as well. They'll just want the W, but can't see Geelong losing down at Geelong.
Port versus Richmond is the other Saturday night game. The Power $1.65 against the Tigers, $2.25. The line minus 5.5, over under 150.5. Richmond have to keep winning, and this is one of those games that they sort of get themselves up for. So I don't mind the Tigers here at $2.25.
Agree with you, OB. I'm a bit, not confused. I'm surprised by the market here. Richmond came out at +9, which I thought, myself, I probably rate Richmond a little higher than the rest of the market, but I thought this game should have been around the pick mark. So Richmond were a good bet at the +9. They've halved down to 5 now. I just think with Port Adelaide, I know they're at home, but their season's over now. And as you said, it's all or nothing for Richmond. So I think the money will keep coming for Richmond. I think it'll get closer to pick by game time. And they're definitely the play for me.
Sunday afternoon early game sees the Kangaroos at $9.50 against the Swans $1.06. The line 47.5, over under 174.5. I think the Swans will absolutely smash North Melbourne.
Yes, at the Dome, so it won't be affected by weather. Here's Toprope will be chiming on here. He loves the 60+ and the Ric Flair out wide, the 100+, which the Sydney could easily achieve here against the Kangaroos. Kangaroos have lost 16 of their last 17. Sydney have won 4 in a row. The line's moved from 45 to 47. This game could get real messy. Like the total here, OB, they opened 169.5. It's up to 174.5. I think this game will be open. I really think this total's, I know the betting won't get up there, but this total will end up closer to 200 than the current market of 174. There will be a lot of goals scored in this game. And if Sydney start well, it'll be cricket scores.
The final game for round 21 sees the West Coast Eagles $1.99 against the Adelaide Crows $1.82. The line 3.5, over under 161.5. Josh Kennedy's last AFL game for the West Coast Eagles. He has been an absolute superstar of the competition. I've loved watching him play. He's just a terrific person, terrific player. So I think the Eagles might lift in his last game.
Yeah, agree. The market agrees with you as well, OB. It's 5 down to 2 and 3 now for West Coast. I think the game will start closer to pick. West Coast at home. Both teams got nothing to play for. They've been really bad form. West Coast have lost 5 in a row. Adelaide lost 10 of their last 13. I don't think Adelaide's got anything to play for. There is weather around, so that might temper the standard of the game. But if it does clear, it'll be open. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think West Coast is the side I'd rather be on, but geez, 2 low teams here.
As we whip through the NRL round 21 action, the remaining games, the Melbourne Storm $1.11 against the Gold Coast Titans $7. The line minus 17.5, over under 45.5. That looks all one-way traffic. Toprope.
I hope not. Line here too big. Hold your nose. Not going to be a fun watch, but the Storm back 5 is about as bad as you're ever going to see in the NRL among the contenders, and you can make a pretty fair case that they're not the worst back 5 in the NRL this weekend. Couldn't lay 17.5 for them. Looks they'll win the game. They've got a good record against the Titans, but I'd rather be on the plus.
Beautiful. Good one for the punters out there. As we look at the Rabbitohs, $1.09 against the New Zealand Warriors, $7.50. The line minus 19.5, over under 46.5. The Rabbitohs going well, but they still look a little bit short there, I reckon, Toprope.
They could play 3 players short and they're still going to give the Warriors. This is a perfect scenario. This is my favourite betting game of the week, the game I'm most heavily invested in. I am chips in the over, and I've had a good size bet on the minus as well. Over has moved from 43.5 to 46.5. That would not surprise at all if that starts 48 if the weather holds, which would be the highest total of the year. And Souths have moved from minus 16.5. There's minus 20.5 places, and it would not surprise at all if that starts. There's been a couple of injuries for the Warriors. Tavanga and Harris Tavita out. It's on the Sunshine Coast, usually a very fast track. The over has hit in 17 of 21 since 2008, average 51.4. The Bunnies are a huge over team off a loss, 21-11, 10-3 the over when they're double-digit favourite, and they're just scoring points with Latrell back. The over is 6-3, and the Warriors are a big underdog of 6-10 or more. So, love the over. Really like South's going to be a big betting game.
Beautiful. As we look to this Saturday night game, it's the local derby. The Cronulla Sharks, $1.28, play host to the St George Illawarra Dragons at $3.75. The line minus 10.5, over under 41.5. These local derbies are always a bit of a spiteful clash, and this one promises to deliver that as well. Top rope.
Well, there's nothing I love more than a bit of spite there, OB. So let's hope that is the case. Got to be at the Sharks here. A bit of a whisper around that. All's not happy in the Dragons camp. We might see a bit of what's going on in Newcastle this week happening at the Dragons next week. Hold fire there, but would not be surprised if Anthony Griffin was moved on sooner rather than later either. It's leaning towards the Sharks, a good record at Shark Park. Probably the best bet in the game. The over, the Dragons cannot defend for the life of them. It's gone over 4 straight when they're away from Cogra, 8 of 12 when lost scoring 10 off you, and the Sharks, the big overs team, including at night 66%. So totally too late.
And the final game for NRL round 21 is the Who Cares Stakes. It's the West Tigers $1.47, the Newcastle Knights $2.70, the line -6, and the over under 44 points even. A bit of news around the Knights this week around David Clemmer. Any way you're leaning in this game, Top Rope?
Yeah, I'll tell you who cares, OB. Your namesake. Adam, the coach of the Knights, because if he loses to the Tigers this week, he will not have a job come Monday. The Knights are that close to rissoling him. They've got the worst attack, the worst defence in the comp, numerically. Should be coming last if it wasn't for a couple of Jeremy early season wins. The Tigers, you kind of think, you don't really want to back them as a favourite. They've covered 4 or 6 as the favourite. They've covered... They've won 7 of 11 against Newcastle. They've had them on toast. They've covered 5 or 6 off scoring 30. This is Adam Dewey's team now. They've made it much, much, much improved when he's been running the show, which is he threatened to play reserve if they name at 5'8". I just see this going one way. The line's moved from opening of -3.5 to -6. It'll start bigger. Yeah, the Tigers are the way to play this one. And then we can all look forward to a Monday where another coach sacking is on the way.
And David Clemmer just being a peanut as usual.
Yeah, one of the great peanuts of all time. But in his defence, a few points. One, he's already won their Player of the Year, so probably should get a little bit more leeway than the other. 2, a bit of foul language is not uncommon on a football field, and refusing to come off, obviously a bit of an issue, probably between him and the coach. And 3, I've got no idea what a trainer is running off to HR to complain about it. So, bit of trouble up in Newcastle. I'm not sure David Clemmer's the one who's the cause of it.
We'll see. Watch this space come Monday. But thank you, Top Rope. A reminder, punters can locate the GGOA for $22 a week in the littlebirdie.live shop for all your NRL betting action. Thanks again, Top Rope. Have a lovely weekend up there.
Yeah, you too, OB. You too, MJ. It was absolutely delightful as always. And, good luck down there in AFL then.
And good luck for the remaining Commonwealth Games as well, Top Rope. And MG, thank you. As always, AFL Stings can be located for $22 a week in the littlebirdie.live shop for all your AFL betting action. Great weekend of AFL action ahead.
Yeah, it should be good. Yeah, 3 weeks to go, so a lot of matches, especially at the top end, count.
Absolutely, and you don't want to. There's a couple of teams that don't want to drop any more games of football on the run home. But that's a wrap for this week's Friday Lines. Thanks to MG and Top Rope. You can follow us on YouTube, find us in the Apple Store, on Spotify, on SoundCloud, wherever you listen to all your good podcasts. You can follow at Little Birdie TV on Twitter and Instagram. Remember, all your footy betting action can be found at topsport.com.au. We'll be back next Friday. Don't forget to join Nikki and the team on Monday for First Look with all the weekend's action in review. Punt well, punt responsibly, and have a great weekend, punters.